Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Friday evening. We've got a massive show to bring you guys this evening, but before we jump into that, please do make sure to smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show this evening, we're going to be talking about West Ham reportedly coming back in for Harry Maguire in the January transfer window. We're also going to be talking about a massive concern surrounding Erik ten Hag and also about a new scouting department that has apparently been announced today. They're going to have a massive overhaul of the scouts at Manchester United, which is about time. We'll talk about that, of course. Lots of other bits to get into as well. As always, get involved in the comment section, get involved in the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start off the story. Let's start off the show with this story about Harry Maguire. And this is coming out from James Ole. He's a journalist for ESPN. And he is reporting this afternoon that West Ham are looking to make a fresh approach for Harry Maguire in the January transfer window. Should his lack of game time continue, Manchester United are not expected to stand in the way. Now, I don't know what to say about this, to be honest. I think if we could get rid of Harry Maguire and bring in a better replacement, then I'm all for it. But if the Glazers aren't going to spend any money, then getting rid of Harry Maguire and having one less centre-back is probably not the greatest idea. You would imagine that Manchester United would look to sell Harry Maguire and then go for someone like Jean-Claire Todibo, who would be available for around a similar price and obviously would cost way less per week in wages. So it would make good sense, and it would be a shrewd bit of business from Manchester United's side. I think somewhere around the £30 million mark would probably be enough to get Manchester United to sell him. Obviously, there's the question marks about whether Harry Maguire would actually agree to the move. Obviously, West Ham are doing very well in the Premier League this season. I mean, they're doing way better than Manchester United are. And you know what? Looking at it from a neutral perspective, I think West Ham are a team who are on the up, whereas Manchester United, let's be honest, are kind of just stagnant at the moment. Some would say that we're declining still. West Ham are 7th in the league. Have had some really, really convincing performances so far this season. And I think they definitely are on the up. They're one definitely to keep an eye on. Obviously, they are in the Europa League as well, which is still a European competition. They're on 4 points out of their first 2 games. Sorry, they're on 6 points out of their first 2 games in the Europa League. They're top of their group in Europa. So all being well, I would imagine they will qualify. The third place is Olympiacos with 1 point. So they're currently 5 points ahead of third place, obviously with 4 games left to go. I would imagine that they will qualify for the next round, and Manchester United probably will be out of Europe, I reckon. Potentially will be will drop down to the Europa. But if I'm sat there, I'm Harry Maguire, and my game time continues not to improve, and you've got a West Ham who are 6th, 7th in the Premier League, will be in the round of 16 in the Europa, and then there's Manchester United, who are, at the moment around 10th and could be out of the Champions League. If I'm Harry Maguire, I'm going to West Ham. But we know that Harry Maguire isn't the same as how most people think. He has this belief that he's better than he is. He has this belief that he can prove himself and get back into the starting 11. I think in some ways he's correct. I don't think he can prove himself, but I think he can get into the 11, not because he's a good player, but because of injuries. Now, my answer to that would be Manchester United are a disgrace for not buying another centre-back in the summer. The fact that Harry Maguire, who's clearly not good enough for Manchester United, is able to make his way back into the team, okay? Not because of his quality, not because of what he's shown on the training pitch, but because Varane's injury prone, Martinez is injured again for 3 months, and then Luke Shaw, who was the third choice centre-back last season, is injured. You're left with Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof. Of course Harry Maguire is going to get picked. Like, what do you really expect? So it's not ideal, is it? But I can understand why Harry Maguire is stamping his feet in the ground, because if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, you can see that he's going to get opportunities. 100% Harry Maguire will get opportunities in that side. Whether we like it or not, Harry Maguire will play for Manchester United. But my answer to that is that Manchester United, the Glazers, are a disgrace for not bringing in a younger, better centre-back in the summer, whether it was Jean-Claire Todibo, whether it was Edmund Tapsoba from Bayern Leverkusen. There were plenty of players available in the kind of £30 to £40 million market in the summer that we could have gone and got easily, but for some stupid reason we weren't able to do it, and now we're in this situation where we're relying on Harry Maguire now. He's an important player for our team, whether you like it or not. With Lisandro Martinez injured, with Luke Shaw injured, we have to rely on Harry Maguire. Lumen says, what's wrong with Harry Maguire staying with us? He said publicly he will fight for his place. Let's see. I don't think there's anything wrong with Harry Maguire staying with us, and I actually in some ways respect him now, because he's proved every single one of us wrong. Whether you like it or not, Harry Maguire has proved us all wrong. And when I say he's proved us wrong, not because of his performances, but because of the fact that in the summer he said that he thought he would get game time and that he was going to stay at the club because he thought he would get opportunities. We're 10 games into the season and he's going to be starting probably every game now until Christmas, I reckon, most likely. Obviously, Varane will probably start when he's fit, but Martinez is out for 3 months. Maguire probably will start. Potentially you'll see Lindelof and Varane, but I would imagine that Maguire's probably going to get some game time, especially with the injury crisis at left back and Victor Lindelof having to move over to the left-hand side. Daniela says West Ham don't need him. Marcus says, do you think our board are capable enough to be able to sell Maguire and buy a replacement in the January transfer window? I don't trust anything with our board, to be honest with you. I really don't. My only hope is that we have new owners by January and that they just completely clean house. They get rid of people like Maguire. They get rid of people like McTominay, where whilst his stock price is high, obviously McTominay is getting a lot of goals at the moment. So I think McTominay would be a good player to sell at the moment because people are actually going to probably offer decent amounts of money for him. Whether we think he's worth decent amounts of money is not the question here. My point is he's the leading goal scorer in the Euros. He just got 2 goals for Manchester United, didn't he, against Brentford. He's clearly in a good run of form at the moment, and this is the time to cash in on people like McTominay, Maguire, and reinvest that money in other players. But let me know what you guys think about that one. Do you think Harry Maguire will go in January? Let me know your thoughts. And if he was to go in January, how much do you think would be a fair price for him? Let me know in the comment section. I always like to see what you guys have to say. Right, let's move on to this next story. And this is coming out from Mike Keegan, who reports for the Daily Mail. And he is reporting this afternoon that Manchester United have launched an investigation into why their first team squad has suffered so many injuries. I mean, I would like to know the results of this investigation, to be honest, because to literally at one point have a whole starting 11's worth of players injured, the Amads, the Kobe Mainus, Luke Shaws, Wan-Bissaka, the list goes on and on and on and on and on, doesn't it? It was literally, if you looked I've seen people doing it on Twitter, and you could actually make a starting 11 out of our injuries from this season in the first 10 games. And it's crazy, isn't it? And I don't know why it is. Obviously, some people have said it's because of all the games last season. Apparently, we played, I think it was the most out of any team in Europe because obviously we got to the final of the FA Cup, the final of the Europa. I think it was us and Man City who played the most games out of anybody in Europe. Obviously, as well as the World Cup. Most of our best players were playing, in the World Cup and all the rest of it. So it was a massive, massive issue. I don't really think that there is much to investigate here. I think it is just that they've been overplayed. I think Erik ten Hag does have to take some blame for this. I think he didn't rotate enough last season. But in some ways, I kind of respect him because he was being selfish in the sense that I think if he had have rotated, we might not have got top 4. We might not have won the League Cup. And potentially there could have been people saying that his job was at stake. Imagine if we didn't get top 4 and we didn't win a trophy last season and then we started the season and we're in 10th. People would... Whatever you thought of Ten Hag, most people would be saying get rid of him, wouldn't they? If he'd have finished, say, like 6th last season, no trophy, and then in the second season he finished 10th or 11th with not convincing football, I think there would be a lot more people saying that they didn't want him at the club, right? But because he got top 4, because he, solidified Manchester United, he showed us that we can win matches. He showed us that we could win a competition for the first time in 5 years. He gained a lot of trust in the fan base, for me included. I used to take it for granted for Manchester United winning trophies. When we won the League Cup, I don't care whether it's the energy drink trophy. I was absolutely buzzing. It was the first time I'd celebrated as a Manchester United fan of winning a trophy in 5 years. And I don't care whether it's the League Cup. I don't care whether it's the Community Shield. I'm happy with anything now because that just shows where our standards are. And I think that Erik ten Hag has bought time and has bought my trust, for the next 2-3 years, I'd say, because I believe that he is onto something and he has got a project here. But that is one criticism I will say of him. Last season, he didn't rotate. I've got a couple of friends who support Ajax, and they said, you know what? He's a good manager, but he doesn't rotate his squad enough. And yes, we had too many games last season, but Erik ten Hag did completely rinse those players for most of that season. Right, let's see what else people are saying. Florian says, will you watch the England game tonight? Probably not, to be honest. I don't think so. I'm not really too interested in international football. I watch the Euros, the World Cup, but I'm not that bothered about the qualifiers and the friendlies and stuff. I'll watch the clips on YouTube afterwards, but yeah, I've never really been that kind of patriotic and that bothered about international football. I don't really like Gareth Southgate. I don't think he's a very good manager. I don't really want to watch Harry Maguire play for England tonight. So yeah, but let me know if you guys are watching it. Danny says, who would he rotate with? Weghorst started for most of our matches. We had one functional defensive midfielder. There was other people available. We had... in midfield, there was Fred. He played some minutes. There was Casemiro, Bruno. Who else did we have? I can't think off the top of my head. Lumen says, Kieran, why would you say Glazers are a disgrace when it's the board who are incompetent? Well, the board are assembled by the Glazers. The Glazers pick the people who work for them. They pick the people who make the decisions for them. So any decision that's made by Manchester United, you can directly point back to the Glazers because it's their club. They make the decisions. They pick the directors of football. They pick the CEOs. And they ultimately sign off on everything. So it's easy to say, oh, it's not the Glazers, it's the board. It all circles back to the Glazers. Every line you point at, think of like a family tree, right? The Glazers at the very top of the family tree, and all of the roots come off the Glazers all the way down to the team. Daniela says, looking back, getting top 4 was a mistake in the long run. Not sure what you mean about that. Comeback King says, when does Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka come back? I think it's going to be a couple of months, mate. It's going to be 2 or 3 months for Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, unfortunately, which is disappointing, but yeah, there's not much we can do about that. Yeah, right, let's move on to the next. So just finally on that injury bit, Mike Keegan also goes on to say that Manchester United's medical officials department are actively seeking to identify whether any patterns exist in the club's current injury list. Should that have been the case, they will attempt to find a way to improve injury prevention in the future. Well, I've just answered it. It's overplaying of players. You know, we had a World Cup in the middle of a season. We got to the final of the League Cup, the FA Cup. We played so many games. Obviously, in the Europa League, we had to play that extra round home and away against Barcelona. We played like 70, 80 matches last season, so plus the World Cup. So, and all of the friendlies and all the rest of it. You know, the pre-season friendlies, the international friendlies. Some of our players probably played anywhere from 80 to 90 matches last season. You know, you think the Brunos, you think the Luke Shaws. So yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Right, let's move on to the next story though. Let's talk a little bit about Onana. Now, I know everybody's had pretty disappointing opinions of Onana so far. I know he's only been here for 10 games. Rob Dawson's been talking about Onana this afternoon, and he says Ten Hag is open to making a change in goal if Andre Onana's form doesn't improve for Manchester United. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comment section and in the live chat, do you think it's time for Onana to be rotated and to give Altay Bayindir, our new goalkeeper, the backup goalkeeper, a try? I thought against Galatasaray it was going to be done. That was what was being said in the press. It didn't happen. I think it does, to be honest. I don't think there's any shame in bringing a goalkeeper off. You know, he's had an absolutely terrible time so far, let's be honest, right? He doesn't have the centre-backs in front of him to be able to play out from the back. So the main reason we bought Onana was his ability to play out from the back. We can't even play that style of football because Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans are incapable of playing out from the back, right? So unless you have Varane and Martinez, which we're not going to have that partnership probably again until after December, after Christmas, yeah? Like, it's kind of pointless having Onana in some ways because he's not the best shot stopper in the world, as we've seen already. He's an elite distributor and he's elite at passing out from the back, but we can't utilise his best assets at the moment. So it's a bit unfair to completely criticise him because all he's really doing is kicking the ball out and not saving shots. In all fairness, he has made a couple of good saves as well, but every single game that I've watched, you know, in the last probably month or two, he's made a pretty bad mistake. You know, against Bayern he did, against Brentford he did, against Crystal Palace I think he did, all of the games. Rob Dawson then goes on to say that Manchester United coaches have reminded Onana to take up more aggressive positions to make the target smaller when opposition attackers are closing down on goal. I mean, that's kind of obvious. It then also says Manchester United are working with Onana to help him better deal with errors when they come, as well as on the technical side of his game, including stabilising his feet more quickly to help with shots aimed low and around his body. Well, I definitely think he needs some help with his shot stopping because it's been very, very poor so far. I think we can all agree on that. Right, let's move on. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. Fred says, as Ajax are in deep trouble, do you think the call to return will be too strong for Erik ten Hag, Kieran? Well, we're going to talk about that now, actually. So thanks for bringing that up. Now, in the video title, it says massive Ten Hag worry. Now, there's a story coming out from the Telegraph, which is, I've probably said it wrong. It's not the Telegraph in the UK. It's the Telegraph in the Netherlands. It's spelt like Telegraaf, Telegraph. I don't know. Anyway, and they are reporting this afternoon that apparently the assistant manager of Manchester United, Mitchell van der Gaag, is apparently one of the top targets for the Ajax job. Now, I think this could be a big, big issue. We spoke about this a little bit on the show yesterday, but there's more and more, you know, mainstream big journalists and outlets reporting this story this afternoon that apparently the Ajax manager's job is looking like. So it says Ajax are now looking at Manchester United assistant manager Michel van der Gaag as a candidate to be their next manager. Obviously, he was there when Erik ten Hag was there. He looks like the real deal. I've seen him driving around in a Lamborghini. Like, he seems pretty flash, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's ready to take the step up to being a proper manager. You know, we know that Erik ten Hag runs a very tight ship with his staff. It then goes on to say Michel van der Gaag is on Ajax's list of replacement managers. It is unlikely that Erik ten Hag will allow his assistant to join them. I mean, if Ajax come in right and offer this guy the job, do you really think Erik ten Hag will be able to stop him? I mean, that would be pretty harsh, wouldn't it? So yeah, it is maybe a little bit of a concern, I think. But let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think that that'll be a massive issue for Manchester United if the assistant manager goes? I don't know that much about him, to be honest. Like, I think he's just been Erik ten Hag's assistant his whole career. But if he gets the opportunity to go and manage Ajax, do you really think that he's not going to turn that down? And that's what's being reported in the Dutch media this afternoon, that apparently they are going to come in for him. He's 51 years of age. Let me have a look. So, yeah, so he was at Ajax. He was the manager at Breda, which is a Dutch sea. Yeah, I mean, he has been FC Eindhoven. Yeah, I mean, he's been the manager of quite a few teams before, to be fair. It was only recently that that he started being an assistant manager for Erik ten Hag back in 2019. And he did used to be a player as well. He played at Utrecht. He played at Al Nassr for a bit. He played at Motherwell, PSV. He's got a bit of a CV himself, but obviously not on the level of Erik ten Hag right at this moment. Danny says, do we know what type of assistant Van der Gaag is? The Arteta type or the Ferreira type? If he is ambitious, then we might lose him. I would imagine he's quite ambitious. And from what I've seen, you know, Erik ten Hag always makes it very, very clear that it's not just him who does all the work. It's, you know, his staff around him. And I think that Michel van der Gaag has been quite an important part of Erik ten Hag's success over the years. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Just moving on to one story about the takeover really, really quickly. This is coming out from a journalist in the UK this afternoon, and they're reporting the confidence is growing amongst the Qatari camp that they will become the new owners of Manchester United. It says Sheikh Jassim believes he is the only serious bidder in the race now. I mean, I don't really get that story personally. How can he be the only serious bidder? We know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is putting in bids. Yes, some of those bids seem a bit comical to us, but he is a very, you know, well-established businessman. It's not like that other guy. What was that guy called? The guy from Norway or something that no one had ever heard of, and his net worth was like 100 million. He was supposedly going to bid for Manchester United, and it almost seemed like it was a joke, you know? We know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has more than enough money to buy 25% of Manchester United. He's worth a lot. He's worth billions, isn't he? So I don't really get that story, but it is what it is, isn't it? And it is a news show, so I'll bring you guys the news. Right, let's talk about this story about the scouting department, because I think this is quite interesting. Because, you know, I've been someone very, very critical of the Manchester United scouts, and I've been one of those people who says, like, how do they keep buying, you know, for example, Antony for 100 million euros? Like, what went through their head to think that was a good bit of business? I like Antony, but he was worth 30, 40. Let's be honest. If we'd have got Antony for 30, 40, I think we would have all said, yeah, he's been all right. 30, 40 million, that's probably about right. But for 100 million euros, it's absolutely ridiculous. So the story's coming out from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic this afternoon, and he is reporting that Manchester United have decided to make major changes to their scouting setup at both youth and first team levels. They are narrowing the scope of their head of academy recruitment to concentrate solely on domestic signings and bringing international youth talent spotters under a senior umbrella. It says Manchester United's new scouting process has split the globe into sections, focusing on the top leagues in the EU, the Americas, with groups of scouts covering each area and reporting to a senior member of the recruitment team. I'll say this, right? How are Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in world football, only doing this now? Apparently one of the scouts had been here for like 10 years. And I can't remember what the guy's name was, but I was reading about it earlier. And when you looked through his track record of the people he'd signed, it was like every single one of them had been a bad signing. We just need a massive clear out of these people from behind the scenes. I'm not talking about Erik ten Hag. I'm not talking about his assistants, because they've been here for like 12 months. But these people who've been here for the last 10 years of this constant failure and this constant poor, you know, signings, all of those people need to go, in my opinion, and we need to have a completely fresh start with new scouts. And hopefully that is what's happening. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. It's all just talk at the moment with Manchester United. they'll probably just give a job to somebody else who used to be here. You know, you'll probably see, I don't know, you'll probably see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be the new scout or something. You know, it's you always get a little bit excited thinking, oh, finally they're going to do something positive, and then it just goes backwards, doesn't it? Comeback King says Van Gaal for the Ajax job. Isn't Van Gaal the Netherlands manager? Or is he not? Let me just check that. No, so he's been advised as he's just been appointed as an advisor for Ajax. So I don't think he's going to be the manager of Ajax. He's just been appointed as an advisor. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat quickly. Paul says John Murta needs to go. Yes, I agree. Cobra says Van der Gaag will have to report to Van Gaal. I'm not sure he would like that. Why would he not like that? I don't. Have they got a history? I'm not sure. Lumen says Kieran, are the Glazers that dumb that they would approve 100 million for Anthony when he was available for 40 million? I don't know. It is literally embarrassing, isn't it? Absolutely embarrassing. I like Anthony. I think he's a good player, but he was never worth 100 million euros ever. Even when we bought him, I said that's ridiculous. He's worth like 60 at the very most euros, 60 million euros. 40 million, never. Sorry, 100 million, never. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that one. Got a couple more bits to get through. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video, everybody. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We hit 20k subscribers yesterday, which was absolutely unbelievable. So massive shouts to every single one of you. Next goal is 21,000. So please do make sure you subscribe. Doesn't cost any money, completely free. Get involved. And let's crack on with the rest of this evening's show. Right, where are we? Oh, where are we? Just gonna have a sip of water. 1 second, everyone. Right. Okay. Where are we? One final thing to talk about quickly before we wrap up the show. There's a story coming out from Ben Jacobs today saying that apparently Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim both remain in talks to buy Manchester United. Sources indicate that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has now made progress, but an improved bid from Qatar cannot be discounted. So it does look like a new bid from Sheikh Jassim will probably likely come in. That's what we discussed on the show this morning. Obviously, we said that we thought that this story of Sir Jim Ratcliffe being close to winning the bid felt like another attempt by the Glazers to squeeze some more money out of Sheikh Jassim. And I think that is all that's happened here. They are trying to get that last little bit of cash. And we are expecting a new bid to go in from Sheikh Jassim. How much that'll be for and when, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, we will keep you updated on the channel. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be back tomorrow for your morning show. I hope everyone has a nice morning, evening, day, wherever you are in the world. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all later.